On today's video, we're going to talk about cocking, the different styles of crossbows, and we're also going to talk about safely loading and shooting these crossbows. All right, guys. Well, first we're going to talk about cocking a crossbow with a cocking rope. Now, this particular crossbow uses a cocking rope with this sled or slide to it. All right. And the principle is pretty much the same for most though. Okay. You got your cocking rope. It's a couple handles with the rope. And sometimes there's individual pulleys down here, or sometimes with this one, there's kind of this skid or slide, all right? And for almost all crossbows, what you're gonna wanna do is take the center of this rope and it's gonna go on the back edge of the crossbow in a spot that the manufacturer recommends, all right? And then with this one, we've got this slide or this skid. We're gonna bring it up. We're gonna bring these hooks over the top of the serving of that main string, okay? And now we've got our handles like this. And then with your foot in the stirrup, you're gonna be able to pull these handles back, engage this string into the trigger mechanism back here, and then your crossbow is cocked. So we're gonna take our cocking rope, get it positioned right there. All right. Then we're gonna slide this skid down, and it's got these little hooks, and we want to hook those hooks around the string. And as you can see, this does have little pulley wheels on it too, but these are the hooks that we want to go around the main string. Okay, get a good hold of it, and then we're just going to pull up until it gets in the trigger mechanism. Okay. And this one usually kind of has to be slid down a bit, and then I pop it out. All right. Now, this crossbow is cocked. Okay, now here's another style of cocking rope, a different name brand of crossbow, all right? This one's got these hooks and pulleys right here, all right? Kind of the same thing. You're gonna want to take the center of this rope and it's gonna swing around a notch in the crossbow, and that depends on the manufacturer. Like this one, that notch is actually down in here. Oftentimes they might be found in this area, but with this one, it's down in here. So this cocking rope needs to be put through here. The rope needs to be put in that notch that the manufacturer recommends. The hooks go forward and hook on to that main string with the server. And now, with your foot in the stirrup, you can pull this cocking rope back, the string comes back and engages back in this trigger mechanism. And there is a few different styles of cocking ropes, all right? This particular one, we got the two handles, we've got our hooks with our little pulley wheels on them, okay? And this is the type of rope we want to use for this crossbow. Now, a lot of crossbows will have a spot designated for part of the cocking rope to go to. On this particular one, it's right in here, okay? Sometimes it'll be in this area, but on this one, it's right there, okay? So what we're going to do is stick 1/2 of this cocking rope through there, put the middle of the rope in about that spot, okay? And then what we want to do is reach down with our hooks, hook onto either side of the string, okay? Get a hold of it with our handles, keep these tight against the rail, and we're just going to pull up on this until the string engages into the trigger mechanism. Like that, okay. And now, once it's cocked, okay, we obviously want to get the cocking rope off of the string. I don't like to reach in there and like pull it out. Like you saw, I kind of like to use gravity, get it out of the way, all right? And most modern crossbows will automatically go to the safe position after they're cocked, okay? And most modern crossbows, actually, they want you to be in the fire position before you cock them, and then they go to the safe position once they're cocked, and that's what this one does. Now, some crossbows, you can cock them with the assistance of a cranking device, which this model has a built-in cranking device to cock this crossbow. Now, each manufacturer that has a cranking device for their crossbow is going to be slightly different, but I will show you an example of this particular model crossbow. So, you have this cranking device, you have this string or cocking rope, and it's very similar to a cocking rope in that it has these two hooks on it. You can flip a lever to disengage this cranking device, and you can pull the string or rope out of it. And now it's very similar to a cocking rope in that you want to take the center section or middle of this string or rope, and it goes in to a notch on the crossbow. Bring the hooks down here, hook them onto that main string. Now we want to engage this cranking device with that button or lever. We can add this crank onto it, okay? The crank comes on and off, so it's out of your way when you're not using it, all right? And then you can just start cranking it, and it brings the string back, engages in the trigger mechanism, and then your crossbow is cocked. This cranking device does have a string with the hooks, with the little pulleys on them, all right? I'm gonna pull it out just a little bit here. And similarly to a cocking rope, we are gonna put the center of this string or rope right here, okay? And then we're gonna slowly bring this down. All right. So it's kind of set up just like your normal cocking rope, but we're using a crank instead of just our arm motion, okay? Now I have to engage the gear system, all right? Foot down in the stirrup, keeping good control of the crossbow, and then we just start cranking it up. Okay, I heard it click in the trigger mechanism. Then I kind of grab the tension, put this to the off position, then I can back off, pull this out of the way, and crank this back up. Okay. And then the handle comes off to get out of your way, and you're all set to load it. Okay, now for loading the crossbow. You go to your arrow or bolt, which it's sometimes called in the crossbow world, and you look at your fletchings, and there's going to be one off-colored fletching all the time, okay? And that's going to always point down, all right? And it's going to go into that groove on your rail. All right. Now, I prefer to load a crossbow this way. This is how I was shown by an old timer that owned an archery shop forever. He showed me this way. He said this is what they learned when they would go to manufacturer meetings and sales meetings about crossbows. And it kind of makes sense to me. Seems like it's probably the safest way to do it. Okay, and I'll show you that in a second. But just to kind of remind you guys, when a crossbow is cocked, right, I kind of treat it like a loaded gun. This string could come flying forward at any minute. These limbs can kind of expand. You know, if this was to accidentally fire somehow, all right, we don't want to have our hands anywhere in harm's way at any time. Now, I've said this before in other videos, and sometimes I get a little bit of blowback because people are like, well, you know, modern crossbows have anti-dry firing mechanisms in them, which means it's not supposed to fire unless it's loaded with an arrow. Or it's on safety, so it shouldn't be a problem. But listen, guys, you know, I don't point a loaded gun at somebody and tell them, oh, don't worry about it. You know, it's on safety, don't worry about it. I don't, you know, I don't look down the barrel of a loaded gun and be like, well, I don't have my finger on the trigger, so it's not going to go off, right? Mechanical devices fail. So if we can just do some simple things and not depend on these mechanical devices, right? Do some simple safety things. That way, if some mechanical device was to fail, we're not going to get hurt. Like, why wouldn't we do it? Okay. So, you know, I know a lot of guys will just grab the arrow or bolt wherever, stick it in there. Their fingers kind of get in harm's way. So this is what this old archery shop owner told me. I bought my first crossbow from him, and this is what he told me. He said, grab it near the end, okay, not in front of the end, but near the end with a couple of fingers, have that off-colored fletching down, and just kind of slide it back down into the trigger mechanism, okay? And that way, if for some reason this was to accidentally fire, you know, that string can only come so far forward. You kind of try to stay out of the way of the limbs. And if it were to accidentally fire as you were loading it, I believe your hand would at least have minimal damage, right? Instead of, you know, having that string just rip across one of your fingers and turn it into a bratwurst. And that's if it stays on your hand, okay? So I've always subscribed to that idea. Hey, it's simple enough. Why don't we load it that way? You know, we don't trust safeties, and we don't trust, you know, not having your finger on the trigger when it comes to firearms. Hey, let's just do the same thing with our crossbows. If we can just do, you know, one little thing a different way and be safer, let's do it. So that's loading the crossbow. You want to make sure that that bolt or arrow is all the way back and that the nock is right up against the string and it's loaded. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and shoot the crossbow, and just like the other one that I pointed out, it automatically goes to the safe position. Okay, it'll be in the firing position before you cock it. As you cock it and the string gets back into the trigger mechanism, it automatically goes to the safe position. So our crossbow has its safety on automatically for us. Now we want to go ahead and we want to shoot this crossbow safely. And kind of the same rules apply. We want to make sure and not get our fingers up into harm's way with this string, right? Now, most crossbows on the forearm area will have guards in place, so you can't get your fingers up into harm's way where the string's going to go, okay? Because remember, this string is going to come flying forward. So if I were to stick my fingers up past this guard, they could easily get clipped, all right? So when your hand's right here on the forearm where it's supposed to be, and your other hand's right here, you know, your trigger finger hand is right here, you're in a good, safe position. Now, the other thing when it comes to shooting a crossbow is there are other parts of the string that are gonna kind of move forward. The limbs are gonna move forward or backward, depending on the type of crossbow you have. Okay, so there's a lot of movement that goes on when you shoot this crossbow, and you want to make sure that there's nothing that movement is going to collide into as you're shooting it, okay? like I'm gonna take a shot off this rest, okay? So I'm gonna set it here. Well, I have to know that this rest isn't gonna be in the way, all right? We're gonna have strings flying forward. We're gonna have this string up here is gonna come forward some. The limbs are gonna come forward. We wanna make sure our rest is not in the way at all. And it's the same thing, maybe if you're shooting off of a sandbag or whatever other rest you might be using. Now, when I talked about having your hand right here on this forearm position with the guards, that's all well and good. And if you're shooting offhand, you know, with no rest, you're probably always automatically gonna keep it there. But where I see guys get into trouble is now that you've got a rest, and now you have this hand, it really doesn't need to be up here to support the weight of the crossbow, and this hand can wander around and find trouble. So, you know, it's always a good idea to keep it right there where it always is, even though it doesn't need to be there, okay? So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna shoot this crossbow, all right? We're gonna keep fingers, hands out of harm's way, and we're also going to keep things out of the way of all the moving parts on the crossbow. All right, so I'm gonna look here, I'm gonna put it to the fire position, and we're gonna take a shot. All right, perfect.
Okay, so I just push the red thing forward.
Yep.